Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Yende. Let me begin with a question that has quietly affected countless couples, families, and long-term partners. Why do so many relationships fail? Not because of betrayal, not because of a single explosive conflict, not even because the two people are fundamentally incompatible, but because, over time, they slowly drift apart. One day they are deeply connected. They laugh together, they reach for each other naturally, they touch often. They share stories, routines, dreams, and ordinary moments that feel meaningful simply because they are shared. They feel emotionally close, safe, alive. And then life begins to press in. Work becomes demanding. Children need attention. Finances become stressful. Emails pile up. Deadlines tighten. Energy runs low. Responsibilities multiply. And without either person fully realizing it, the relationship starts operating on autopilot. The love may still be there, but the connection begins to weaken. The spark feels dimmer. The emotional warmth decreases. Conversations become shorter, more functional, more transactional, and eventually, many couples begin to ask themselves the same heartbreaking question: what happened to us? Today, we're exploring a fascinating question from neuroscience. Can tiny, scheduled moments of connection, what we might call microdoses of intimacy, restore emotional closeness and help reverse relationship burnout? Can something as simple as a 30-second hug, a brief touch on the shoulder, a daily expression of appreciation, a 2-minute conversation with no distractions actually change the chemistry of the brain? And could wearable technology one day help us measure these effects in real time? Welcome to the neuroscience of micromoments, the relationship burnout epidemic. Most people assume relationships end because of dramatic events: an affair, a betrayal, a major argument, a shocking revelation. But relationship researchers often describe a much quieter and more common process. Relationships usually decline gradually, not all at once, slowly, subtly, through emotional erosion, through tiny disconnections repeated over time: a little less eye contact, a little less physical touch, a little less curiosity, a little less appreciation, a little less emotional presence. And before long, the nervous systems of two people begin to lose their synchronization. The couple may still share a home, a bed, a schedule, and a life, but emotionally they begin to feel distant, not because love vanished, but because connection stopped being practiced. Your brain is a social organ. Many people think of love as a feeling, and it is. But biologically, love is also a process, a living, changing neurochemical response. Your brain is constantly scanning your relationships for signs of safety, trust, belonging, and support. It is asking, often outside your awareness: am I safe here? Am I valued? Can I relax? Do I belong? When healthy relationships are present, powerful biological systems come online: dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, oxytocin. The nervous system changes in response to connection. This is why relationships are not just emotional experiences, they are physiological experiences. They shape the body as much as they shape the heart. The oxytocin effect. Let's talk about oxytocin. Oxytocin is often called the bonding hormone, although that label only scratches the surface of what it actually does. It is involved in trust, attachment, emotional bonding, parent-child connection, romantic closeness, social safety, empathy, affection. When oxytocin increases, people often feel calmer, safer, and more open, less guarded, less defensive, more willing to connect, more able to trust. In many ways, oxytocin helps transform another person from someone the brain must assess carefully into someone the body can experience as a source of comfort and security. That shift is powerful. And in relationships, it matters profoundly. Why modern life disrupts connection. The challenge is that modern life constantly competes with intimacy. Human beings evolved in small groups, in families, in tribes, in environments where connection was face-to-face, immediate, and embodied. But today we are surrounded by a very different reality: notifications, emails, social media, streaming services, packed schedules, constant multitasking, a flood of digital stimulation that fragments attention and weakens presence. Many couples spend hours in the same room. They may even sit side by side every evening, and yet remain neurologically disconnected, physically close, emotionally distant. Because the brain does not thrive on proximity alone. It requires meaningful interaction. It requires attention. It requires warmth. It requires moments that signal, "you matter to me." Bas. The power of micro-moments. This is where neuroscience becomes hopeful. Because connection does not always require grand gestures, expensive vacations, or dramatic romantic acts. More often, it is built through tiny, repeated interactions. A smile when someone walks into the room, a gentle touch as you pass by, a warm greeting at the end of the day, a sincere compliment, a shared laugh over something small, a moment of gratitude. a brief expression of affection. These micro-moments may look insignificant from the outside, but the nervous system notices them, it records them, it responds to them. Over time, repeated positive interactions reinforce emotional safety, and emotional safety strengthens connection. That is how closeness is built, not only in extraordinary moments, but in ordinary ones, repeated consistently. The 6-second kiss. One well-known relationship practice involves something beautifully simple, a 6-second kiss. Long enough to be intentional, long enough to be present, long enough to interrupt autopilot and bring two people back into each other's awareness. Why does this matter? Because sustained affectionate contact encourages presence, attention, physical closeness, emotional engagement. It tells the nervous system, this person is safe, this relationship is important, this bond deserves care. The effect may be subtle in the moment, but biologically, moments like these can reinforce intimacy in lasting ways. Hugs, touch, and the nervous system. Physical touch remains one of the most powerful regulators of human physiology, a hug. A hand held during a difficult moment, a reassuring touch on the back, a gentle squeeze before sleep. These forms of touch can influence heart rate, stress responses, blood pressure, emotional regulation, feelings of safety. Researchers have observed reductions in stress markers following affectionate touch, not because touch magically removes life's problems, but because the nervous system interprets safe human contact as a signal that danger has decreased. In other words, loving touch tells the body, you can soften now. And that message matters more than many people realize. And the HPA axis in relationship stress. Now let's look at the HPA axis, the body's central stress response system. When relationships are strained, this system can become overactivated. Cortisol rises, stress becomes chronic, sleep quality worsens, recovery slows down, emotional reactivity increases. The body can remain in a state of low-grade defense, as if bracing for a threat that never fully leaves. Over time, this can affect both mental and physical health, but positive connection may help shift the system in the opposite direction. It may reduce perceived threat, support recovery, improve resilience, and help the nervous system return to a more balanced state. That is one of the most fascinating possibilities in relationship science. What wearables are revealing. For the first time in history, wearable technology gives us a way to observe some of these effects objectively. Heart rate variability, resting heart rate, stress scores, sleep quality, recovery metrics. All of these can offer clues about how the body responds to daily life. Now imagine measuring your physiology before and after a meaningful interaction with your partner. A real conversation, a hug, shared laughter, a walk together, an evening without screens. A moment of appreciation offered and received. Many couples might discover something remarkable. Their best relationship moments are also their best physiological moments because the body responds to connection. It does not merely feel it, it registers it. The science of relational longevity. We often think of longevity in terms of exercise, nutrition, sleep, supplements, training, recovery, but some of the strongest predictors of long-term health involve relationships. People with strong social bonds tend to experience better mental health, greater stress resilience, improved recovery, higher quality of life, and often longer lives. Connection is not a luxury. It is not an optional extra. It is a biological necessity. We are built to bond. We are built to belong. And when those needs are met, the body often thrives. Building an oxytocin protocol. Imagine creating a daily relationship protocol, not something based on moods or motivation, but something built on habit. A morning hug before the day begins, a midday message that says, I'm thinking about you. An evening conversation without devices, 10 minutes of undistracted attention, a gratitude ritual before bed. These are small actions, simple, accessible, easy to overlook, but powerful when repeated consistently. They are microdoses of connection, tiny investments in emotional closeness, and over time those small acts compound, like exercise for the relationship, like nourishment for the nervous system. The future of relationship health. Now imagine a future in which wearables can identify relationship stress patterns, physiological synchrony between partners, emotional recovery trends, shared sleep quality, joint HRV responses. We may one day understand relationships with the same precision that we now apply to physical fitness, not to reduce love to data, not to replace intimacy with numbers, but to help us protect what matters, to notice when connection is fading, to support recovery when stress is rising, to make invisible dynamics visible, and perhaps to help couples care for their bond with greater intention. The OXYZEN perspective. At OXYZEN, we believe relationships are among the most powerful health interventions available. Your partner can influence your sleep, your stress, your recovery, your emotional resilience, your sense of safety, your longevity. The future of health intelligence may involve measuring not only individual biology, but relational biology as well, because some of the most important biomarkers in life are human. They live in touch, in tone of voice, in presence, in laughter, in shared silence, in the small moments that tell us we are not alone. Jitter, final thought. Perhaps relationship burnout is not always a failure of love. Perhaps more often it is a failure of maintenance, a failure of small moments, a failure to keep choosing each other in little ways every day. Because the strongest relationships are rarely built through grand events alone. They are built through thousands of tiny interactions repeated consistently over time. One touch, one conversation, one laugh, one moment of presence, one microdose of connection, and perhaps those moments are powerful enough not only to restore a relationship, but to change a life. I'm Dr. Yende, and this is OXYZEN Health Intelligence. And before I leave you, I want to ask one final question. What is one small daily ritual that makes you feel most connected to the people you love? Let us know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next episode.